Today, because it's Monday, I'm gonna talk like Garfield. I hate Mondays. Mondays are so terrible. Boy, wouldn't that be... boy, wouldn't that be a dumb thing to do all stream. Plus, people would think I was ripping off comedians like Stephen Wright. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, coming at you early. There's actually still some sunlight peeking through the curtains. I hope this doesn't come back to punch me in the face, so to speak, because, yeah, I have some hillbilly neighbors. It's still light out, and they may want to tinker with a truck or a motorcycle and make a bunch of noise. So, I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I stream at night as well, because it's just when people are sleeping and making noise could get the cops called on you. It inherently makes for a better environment for making YouTube videos or streaming. So, we got a couple of things to talk. We have a ton of things to talk about. Who am I kidding? There's a ton of stuff to talk about. Once again, I'm going to make this sound like a radio show. And quite frankly, with how much commentary I'm doing in these behind-the-scenes streams, it just points more and more to yet another thing to put onto my infamous to-do list to basically revamp the radio style format so that I can take this commentary and take it back to the radio style format and take the radio style format back to YouTube. I want to make it sound like it's the radio, though. That'll require some production material that I currently don't have. So for now, I'm going to stay with just this blah stream formats with its MultimediaJay doing stuff or saying stuff, and we'll keep things this way for quite some time. I'm actually thinking of getting rid of the playlist for podcasty sounding stuff, because I think that era is over. I think the streams have made those kinds of YouTube videos obsolete as far as I'm concerned. So anyways, the overarching discussion for today is this: non-support of content creators, earned or learned. Anybody who's done anything in psychology probably knows about the earned versus learned debate. The question is whether behaviors that people exhibit are behaviors that are internal to them that they're doing, or is it behaviors that they were taught to do? So when you treat people a certain way, is it something you're doing because you wanted to do it? Or is it something that somehow somebody taught, influenced, or in some other way conditioned you to do? Probably the easiest way I can sum up this topic is to look back at the last 10 years on YouTube and some of the things that I've made some very angry complaint videos about over the years. One of them is, I used to have something, there's a phenomenon that probably still exists on YouTube, just not as big as it used to be. I called it gaming video hate. Not to be confused with like hate like Kefka or anything. But gaming video hate was this idea that people were automatically dismissing gaming videos just because they looked like gaming videos, and that they were conditioned to do so because of the state of YouTube at the time. There was a rise of commentators in the 2010s who pretty much ruined what was special about any kind of gaming footage. So there were commentators, Review Tech USA was one of them, so was Icy Rhythms and a couple other folks. They made commentary channels that used video game footage as the visual component of their videos. Otherwise, Heel vs. Babyface did some of this too. They were using gaming footage completely unrelated to what they were talking about, just so they would have a video on YouTube. And I wondered about that because beginning in 2011, after years of gaming videos always doing as well as tech videos and other stuff that I made, suddenly, if something even looked like a gaming video, it was an instant death sentence for the video in terms of use. Just once it even looked like, it didn't even have to be a gaming video. I did an experiment with this, literally very similar topics, and made one look like a gaming video and one look like a vlog, and the vlog did better. So what this all boils down to is conditioned behavior. There were a lot of people that were abusing gaming footage in the 2010s, because otherwise they wouldn't even have YouTube videos, because they wouldn't have videos in the first place. And so what this does is people get used to it, and they get desensitized to it, and they stop wanting to watch gaming content from people because they're just it's a sensory overload. It's one of those things, it's like, absence makes the heart grow fonder, or how appetites work. If something is rare enough, people appreciate it more. But if something happens too much, they don't appreciate it just because there's too much of it. Take, for example, that old marketing campaign from Gatorade. Gatorade is formulated to taste best when you need it the most. Well, anything will taste best when you need it the most if you're thirsty enough. It's just part of how we operate as biological creatures. If we're really thirsty, that cold glass of water is going to be amazing to us. But when we've been drinking water, when we've been sipping water throughout the day, we're like, yeah, whatever, I'm just staying hydrated. Just the way we work. I think Asmongold, with his indefinite hiatus from streaming, which will probably be like a month or two, is trying to make this magic happen again, just like he did last time he took a notable break from streaming. His fan base didn't go away, and they started to miss him. He came back, I believe, to higher concurrence. 40,000 concurrence, and that's basically where he's sat. Sometimes a little above, sometimes a little below, but when the Rust fad took off, let me fire up Sully Gnome here and put it in a browser. When the Rust fad took off, and I don't really like these streamer games where people just let streamers, like, you know, brush up each other's egos and things along those lines. I really don't like these games that are basically streamer games, like Among Us, and now Rust is falling into this category, because so many people are misled into thinking that they can become big streamers, or it can be anything like what the streamers have if they play the game on their stream as a small streamer. When in the case of Rust, this is a custom-built server that is specifically for streamers and their specific needs, like not getting some jerk who tries to flash inappropriate stuff on screen and get him banned from Twitch, or something like that. You see, trying to load Asmongold's 90-day in here. There we go. So we're doing all this. I actually want to load his lifetime graph. So 365 days and stretch it out, so we can see his development as a Twitch streamer. It's just that Sully Gnome, little on the sluggish side. But for most of 2020, and it's actually a downward trend line because of the tanking that happened around the time Rust started taking off about a month or so ago. So we have a situation where I'm guessing he's playing Absence Makes the Heart Grow Fonder, and he's trying to get this to load here. Let's see, it'll take a while. These database, this Sully Gnome actually went down a couple days ago. So these databases could be a little on the slow side. We'll let that load. But this whole thing with streamer games, I mean, I don't really like it because it just deceives people all over the place. You're not going to get an experience like what they have with Among Us and Rust. These streamers that have been tearing it up in Among Us are playing in private lobbies with all other big streamers. People who all have a compelling interest. People who all have a compelling interest in not getting each other banned, so you don't have randos coming in that'll try and, you know, kick people off of Twitch or whatnot. It's an isolated fishbowl environment, despite whatever drama's going on with these streamers. And now we have a dedicated offline TV Rust server. There we go. Finally. Good. It actually loaded. Let's load up a browser here. We got a lot of things we got to load up with browsers. Get this thing linked. Look at Asmongold's lifetime. Look at Asmongold's lifetime progression on Twitch, which basically means this graph right here. So we see he basically takes steps. He gets better, and then he jumps up a bit. Let me just... he gets better. He does some stuff in the late... He gets some benefit, but not much, from the late 2010s growth period on Twitch. Then let's see. Around here, 2019, September... Is that 2018 or 2019? No, that's 2019. That's 2018. Gets some growth here because he has feedback loops with YouTube. And then he has a boost with WoW Classic. And here's 2020, where he's hung around the 40,000 mark. So he was kind of he had his ups and downs in 2019, but here we are again. And there's this gap in the middle where people really started to miss him. They were watching the Treehouse videos he was doing. Bottom line is, when you're streaming every day, you get burnt out, and your audience gets burnt out, usually at the same time. So I would not be surprised. I'm curious if he's going to get any gains from whatever month-long break he takes or whatnot. Things are starting to go downhill before he stops streaming. But I imagine we might see things go up maybe to like 45 to 50 thou or something along those lines. But I think he has to figure out what he wants to do with World of Warcraft versus his personality. Just like what SFan has done. SFan has branched out into variety. And quite frankly, no, I've been checking out some of the other games he's been playing, including Rust. He's got this thing going with this sheriff character that he's basically cosplaying and whatnot. And it's just breaking up the monotony of, today I'm playing this game, then I'm playing this game, now I'm playing this game, and just things along those lines. I still think, though, that being a full-time streamer has its drawbacks, and I think that these guys are all going to have to figure out what to do about having spent years of their life playing video games for money. and what that means if things ever change, something happens to Twitch, something happens to them, or they want to retire from streaming. What is that going to translate into versus having spent years getting good at video editing, making videos, or something else that gives you some other kind of skill besides interacting with random people on the internet? Unless these folks want to get into marketing for a living, if they ever get to the point where they're like, I've had enough of streaming. Because relating to people and working with people is probably the sort of thing they should look to develop a formal background in if they've been this successful with streaming for this long. Wow, was that a tangent or what? So what does any of this have to do with anything? Well, let's rewind it back to the gaming video hate discussion. What we have here is conditioned behavior. Somebody, through some influence or something else like that, behaves a certain way, and they may not even know that they're doing it. Same here. I actually was affected by some of this as well when I started noticing, like, wait, this creator who I haven't seen because YouTube hasn't shown me their stuff in 5 months, whatever YouTube, this creator is still making pretty good gaming reviews. Why don't I watch some of them? Same thing, too, at getting back into AVGN. For the longest time, oh, another nerd video. Oh, another nerd video. I was too busy with other stuff. But now I've been checking out some of his more recent reviews and binge watching some of his older reviews that he's done while I was kind of burnt out on other stuff. But what all this boils down to is, as anybody who's involved in these platforms, even if you don't make content, do not discount yourself. You're just as vital of a part of this ecosystem as anybody who's actually making stuff. There was an incident on Twitter recently where a Twitch streamer got upset because he followed a bunch of Twitch streamers who never tuned into his stream. And he was like, well, what's the point of me following them if they're not going to acknowledge that I followed them? I'm trying to introduce myself to them. Why aren't they watching me? It was kind of memed for a bit, but I took it very, very seriously. It's one of those things that got me thinking about the way people treat each other. And part of what I was thinking of when that whole incident went down was this. Content creators are probably some of the worst people to have in your audience, because by virtue of making stuff, they're going to eat up so much of their time in working on their own stuff that they'll probably feel like they're not spending enough time watching other people and supporting them. Numerous times with me. That's one of the reasons, besides the issues with YouTube's subscription system that come and go every couple of weeks, why I have a bookmark menu for creators that I like. So if YouTube wrongly assumes that I've been too busy to watch stuff and therefore, so I don't care about these creators anymore, because it's easy to mess up your own algorithm results. Do research on a topic, for example, on YouTube, and you'll see a bazillion videos about that topic even after you're done doing the research. Even though you don't want to watch that stuff anymore, the algorithms will keep recommending stuff until the system figures out, no, that was a one-off deal. You're not interested in that anymore. Don't keep showing the videos. So you'll keep doing that, and you'll keep just... so the point is, the computers don't always get it right. And this is something that YouTube's own people have said. So I have ways of manually overriding these shortcomings here. So I look through my drop-down list every so often, and I see, oh, I haven't watched that person in a while. Let's check him out. Let's check out what they're doing these days. And it doesn't show me if they've actually made any videos for the people that have taken breaks, so sometimes I get false positives there. I'll check out oh, they still haven't done anything. Okay, next. One of those things. Part of the intricacies of an evergreen platform like YouTube is that this stuff can happen. But content creators, not the best people to have in your audience. They get really into what it is that they're doing. If they get really into what they're doing, they're not going to be watching as much because they're making stuff of their own. So those of you who don't make anything are probably the best people out there for people to have in their audience, because you will actually be watching stuff all the time, not sucking up all your time or close to it with making stuff. So if you don't actually make any videos and you don't actually stream, do not discount yourself as a member of this whole ecosystem. You are at least as important. You are at least as important as anybody who makes anything, because you're the one who's the reason why people are inspired to make stuff. Because people are watching stuff, other people want to make stuff. I don't know how many of you people out there have ever thought of this way, but do not ever let a streamer or a YouTuber or anybody put you down because you don't make anything. You know, there are trolls out there with sock puppet channels with no videos. That's been that way for 15 years. The whole time I've been on YouTube, this has been a problem. But if you're a constructive, supportive member of various creators' audiences, do not ever discount yourself just because you don't make any videos or stream. If it wasn't for people like you, nobody who makes anything would be inspired to do this unless they were just complete and total narcissistic artists who are like, I have this wonderful idea. I'm the only one that thinks it's wonderful, but I think it should exist. You know? A lot of what makes these platforms work is just feeling good about what it is you're doing because other people are deriving some kind of value from what it is that you do. They are entertained by it. They're informed by it. They just like hanging out. Whatever it is. Positively affecting others and knowing that you're positively affecting others is reason enough to keep doing this stuff for anybody. But if there aren't the others to positively affect, what's the point? Unless you are so full of yourself that you will make stuff that nobody ever watches. Just so it'll exist. Which is a valid reason for making videos. But it's a heck of a lot more fun. It's a valid reason for streaming, too, if you keep your streams around. And it's not just one-off live events you don't care about anymore once you click end stream. That's perfectly a valid way to do things, but it's a lot more fun when people are saying nice things and appreciating what you do and supporting what it is that you do. And so that's why I'm talking about this whole thing of we're all in this together. No matter how low you think you are on the totem pole of the food chain, you're probably wrong. Because without an audience, there's no point in putting on the show. That's the thing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And so that's why I'm looking at, for example, this whole idea of conditioned behavior. In the case of gaming video hate, when people are instantly blowing off videos because they look like gaming videos because, quite frankly, gaming footage was getting abused, that was something where you might catch yourself getting influenced by this trend that existed on YouTube. And then when Twitch started taking off and game streaming started taking off, now it's become an intellectual thing where you have to think about, why should I make a gaming video? Why should I watch a gaming video when so many people are streaming? That's where you have to start thinking about the strengths and weaknesses of videos versus streams and where it's better to do each one and whatnot. In my case, with this latest thing I'm doing on YouTube, The Adventures of Lady Celeste Fear Dragon, one of my characters in Elder Scrolls Online, who is basically doing the fight the power thing, to this idea in the meta that Dragon Knights are always tanks. So here I am making a caster healer Dragon Knight with a backstory, with some lore, with some style. The streams that I'm archiving on YouTube for that, because YouTube streams don't expire, and you can make spin-off videos of them anyways, even if they did. The streams that I'm archiving on YouTube for that are a passion project, and they're the sort of thing where they will only get views if people get past their conditioned behaviors when it comes to live streaming. This is the part where you have to talk about the way people treat streams. And one of the negative things that exists currently because of Twitch's streaming bubble. Part of this conditioned behavior thing is understanding there might be some corporate influence that is affecting how you personally view content creators and the stuff that they make. Much like how the abuse of gaming footage led to people blowing off gaming videos, even if they were good commentaries, and in my case would play some stuff, somewhere between reviews of Let's Plays and reviews, the stuff that people would normally watch before all this happened. Much like in that case, we have to look at how we view streams, and whether or not we've been conditioned by the rise of Twitch to not take streams and even what are called VODs as seriously as we should on either side of the equation. It's conditioned behavior. And if you don't watch out, and if you don't think past whatever the meta is at the time, you will never move beyond it, because it is something that people do. It's like, it's an ad populum thing. If you don't know what ad populum is, logical fallacy. It means just because a bunch of people believe something, it automatically makes it right. Just because a bunch of people have some views on streaming and what streams are and whether you should watch them after the fact does not make them right. And so in my case, with the two kinds of streaming that I do, hangout streaming and hybrid streaming, mostly hybrid streaming, because the concurrents are blah on most of what I do, that breaks from the meta of Twitch, because I am streaming with the specific intent of it converting into a YouTube video that is watchable and enjoyable after the fact. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, but it is not popular. You ask random people about videos versus streaming, they'll tell you that streams just hang out with your audience. Some people even design their channels around that, and in doing so, they create and they influence this behavior that says that streams are not worth watching after the fact. When in reality, how many people out there have had YouTube videos playing in the background? Or something. In some other way, you've watched YouTube videos much in the same way you might have a stream going on monitor number 2 after the fact. Oh, but the live interaction is half the fun of watching streams. That's part of this problem. You've been conditioned to think that. What if somebody gets involved and does show flow, production value, and makes streams interesting without needing to even be in chat? You're assuming that the streamer is never going to have any of those things by having this idea that influences whether or not you watch other people's stuff, that streams are never worth watching after the fact, because what makes streams special is the live interaction. This gets repeated all over the place, but I can tell you, YouTube predates this fad. And YouTube built itself up without needing a live component. There is a way to make video content interesting and worth watching, sometimes multiple times after the fact, without needing to use live stuff as a crutch. And let's also not forget Twitch. Their fundamental weakness is their overemphasis on live content. It's why big 3 platforms, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Facebook and YouTube have things besides streaming. Twitch technically does, but the site doesn't really help with it. And it doesn't really help with conditioning people to view Twitch as something like a gaming video portal or something. Let me tell you something that you're not going to hear from from all the talking heads who are repeating the same 6 or 7 talking points all over the place and getting all the views when talking about Twitch versus YouTube or making videos on Twitch or streams on Twitch or anything of that sort. If you look over the affiliate agreement, if you fire up the Twitch affiliate agreement, why don't we do that actually? Fire up Avast Secure again. Are we still linked to it, or do I have to relink it in OBS? Let's bring up the Twitch affiliate agreement. Yeah, we have to relink it. We got Asmongold's thing earlier. Twitch affiliate. Let me show you Twitch affiliate agreement. Let me show you something that people overlook. This legal agreement has been done to death. People have said all kinds of things about the Twitch affiliate. Oh, look, it links back up. Ain't that nice? Okay. Let's look at the exclusivity clause. Live, section 2.2. Live content exclusivity. Solely for any live audio-visual work you choose to provide to us as user content, starting from the beginning of the initial broadcast and continuing for a period of 24 hours following the end of the initial broadcast. Such live Twitch content is exclusive to Twitch, even as to you. During the exclusivity period, blah, 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 24-hour rule. Nearly every Twitch streamer knows about this if they've advanced to partner or affiliate. Notice the L word. Live. What's that underrated feature that you gain when you become a Twitch affiliate? Access to uploads. But this clause refers to stuff you're live streaming. Twitch's focus has been primarily live streaming. So here's a wild and crazy idea that you're not going to hear from all these people making videos about growing on Twitch. Maybe they haven't thought of it, or maybe they haven't thought it was worth talking about. You could stream on YouTube, convert that into a spin-off video, or let the stream process for sometimes hours or days afterwards. have the YouTube version of the stream, then download it and upload it to Twitch as an upload and not be subject to that rule because it's not live. Have it there as an upload for people that only watch stuff on Twitch. People that hate YouTube, don't want to watch a lot of YouTube wherever they are. So you'll cover that audience by uploading your VODs, essentially, because people are going in the other direction. Thanks to the export features, the robust export features from Twitch to YouTube, as well as people being scared of DMCA and stuff like that, because Twitch does not have the Content ID stuff that YouTube has, to their detriment. I will not stop emphasizing this. Twitch needs to do something about that, but that's their problem as a platform, not something to be dumped on the creators. A lot of people talk about going the other way. Take your VODs from Twitch to YouTube. Maybe use YouTube's more precise editor to chop things down a little more for making highlight videos, or just download, edit, re-upload with an offline editor. But what about taking stuff from YouTube and sending it to Twitch as an upload? It's potential that they're sitting on. It absolutely is. They have the tools, they have a decent video experience, and that video experience can be monetized with mid-rolls. Just like YouTube. Unlike YouTube, no skip button, but also unlike YouTube, fixed lengths for the commercials. There is no hijacking the skippable ads thing like there is currently on YouTube with these people sending their videos through the ad circuit. But you can't turn that off as a creator because YouTube sells so many of those skippables. Number one, you got to lose the skippable ads from the companies that aren't pulling this nonsense. Number two, you will lose a crap ton of ad revenue from whatever little ad revenue you get just by turning off the skippables. I tried that once, things tanked very quickly. And if I look at the split in YouTube Studio, it was 66%, then it went to 75%. Let me fire up Firefox here and put OBS on screen too. What is our current split at for this kind of stuff? Analytics. Look at the revenue tab. 77% of the ad revenue on my channel is from stuff people can skip. Cut that out. You cut nearly all of it out. You're basically down to Twitch levels of advertising. And this is the fight over on Twitch, by the way. People don't want to run ads because they know that it's more of a problem for the audience than it is for... It's more of a problem with the audience being upset and bouncing versus the piddly amount of, like, pennies you get for running the ad breaks. At the same time, though, what's called monetization on YouTube is really part of the platform paying its views. So, this is Twitch trying to make some money to pay their own bills, and they can't figure out how because this whole advertising debacle. Maybe they have other commercial deals or something along those lines. But this is the argument on Twitch right now. And so, with stream after stream after stream on YouTube getting demonetized, I've decided to just not monetize anything when it comes to streams. Because YouTube can't get this right. The monetization system is years behind what it is on uploads. You can't pre-declare what kind of content you have. And bottom line, I've seen too many examples where literally the exact same content, the stream will get demonetized, the video will not. Even with the same exact might not be safe for advertisers stuff declared, the stream gets demonetized, the video does not. YouTube is clearly working on the live side of things, not as well refined as the upload side of things. So I just assume all streams are going to get demonetized. This might be a growth opportunity for YouTube, though, to get people actually watching streams on YouTube when there aren't problems with, like, I'm going to run ad breaks or something. However, you know, it is a lost opportunity if you're going to do a be right back screen or something because you're going to use the bathroom or food's here or something like that. Might as well run something because you're not there anyways. That's the one use I can find for the Twitch thing and things like that. Just take a break, and while you're not there, let Twitch try to pay its bills a little through the latest ad for Totino's pizza rolls or something. That's the one way I see their system working, but I'll bet any money to the suits at Twitch that probably is not enough. But unfortunately, they leave revenue on the table because of their overemphasis on live stuff. If they had more of an evergreen presence with gaming videos, things besides streams, and using Twitch's strong brand with gaming to give people a reason to use this uploads feature, which is very underrated, they'd probably do better for themselves, and it'd be less annoying because the Twitch ad experience is more controlled than YouTube's is. There is no one hijacking the ad system to send their videos through it. You watch a 10-minute video, suddenly you got this skippable ad that's 45 minutes long. Skippable ad. Ha, yeah, sorry. That's not an ad, that's a freaking YouTube video. YouTube, Google, stop letting people abuse your ad system. People are annoyed enough about advertising as it is. Why are you making it worse, even though they have a skip button? There truly is nothing like trying to just listen to something like this, and all of a sudden, oh, you get an ad, and it's a 45-minute PragerU video or something, or somebody's podcast, and you have to walk back and hit skip. Versus if this was on Twitch, oh, look, the 15-second Totino's Pizza Roll commercial. Back to the video. There's so much potential that Twitch is sitting on right now by not going more evergreen. And this is precisely the reason why I mentioned on Twitter earlier this afternoon the idea of a hostile takeover. It's a business concept where you don't like how a company is being run, so you get the money and the people and the influence to take over the board and essentially take over the company. Maybe buy the majority of the shares, something along those lines. It's a thing in business that I never understood when I was a no street smarts, no real world experience college kid back in the day, but I definitely understand it now. I'm curious if there are activist investors out there who want Amazon to spin off Twitch. They can do a hostile takeover and make it into more of a YouTube competitor, or maybe within Amazon. Are there people who want to just take more direct control of the subsidiary to shape it more in Amazon's image and try and make it better? I wonder about that very regularly these days. But we've wandered away from the topic here. But that's because the topic of the stream is largely something to think about. With all of this going on, ask yourself this question. If you're watching someone's videos or streams, is the way that you treat them or the way you don't support people something you may have been conditioned to do without really thinking about what it is that you're doing? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to load up a video from in debate mode from YouTube Creator Insider talking about algorithm stuff. I've been talking about this Rachel video for quite some time. It's about time I directly responded to it. We'll be right back. Yeah, I know. Hey, you didn't let the song play all the way. Why not? Do you really want me to be gone for even longer? Some more stuff to drink. Yar, because I have a bit of a drinking problem when streaming. Okay, so one very important thing to go over regarding what we were talking about before the break. So, this whole idea of the exclusivity on Twitch does not apply to Twitch uploads. What's stopping me from doing more of that? Asset permissions. So the Slink music that you've heard and been hearing throughout most of what I've done, I'd have to get permission from Slink to use his stuff on Twitch if I really wanted to be in the clear on that kind of stuff. It is set up for the YTAL and things like that. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with it going over to another platform and things like that. But that's really it, just getting the stuff in order with asset permissions and stuff. I'm probably going to reach out on Twitter or on Discord or something to get that formalized instead of just, well, maybe he won't have a problem with it or something like that, which is something you don't want to be doing. So we'll talk about that at some other point later on. All right, let's load up this video with Firefox, which hopefully this doesn't show my live control room when I link it up. So let's just make sure there's nothing sensitive on the live control room thing. Let's actually make it smaller. And we'll put OBS over on screen number 2 here. Debate mode, we're going to look at this video from Rachel over at Creator Insider. Got about 10,000 views since being uploaded on the 7th. And I'm going to respond to some of her points. All right, let's see. She's freeze-framed very, very well. So it's not like a mugshot or anything. Hope I don't do too much of that. Load this up, and there's next to nothing there. Been a long time since I've used this. So let's see here. I might have to re-add this in order to get it working. So hard to click on. It's like 1 pixel wide. Yeah, okay. Okay, dude. Mozilla Firefox. I have to click it in the list and then... all right, can we get some of it? Okay, now it's 2 pixels and stuff like that. Shrink that down. Oh, I actually have to hold down Alt in order to... No, we do have to shrink it. See, I was doing some experimental stuff. Look at that. It's a line. Properties. It is. Oh, it's picking up live control room too. Anyway, so it's wrong. Let's see. There we go. Just changing it to a different window. Now made it into something that. Oh man. Well, now we're getting back to the stuff that I used to do. Now we're getting back to the stuff that I used to do here. So shrink that down as we're getting her houseplant basically. Remove it. Remove Mozilla Firefox. Goodbye. And re-add it at 1920 by 1080, please. Add existing Mozilla Firefox. Boom. Boom. 1920 by 1080. There we go. Now let's cut this down to debate mode, which means as though we were like on a call or something. Rachel is one of the analytics folks at YouTube and a regular host on Creator Insider. We're going to cut this down to debate mode format. She talks about a lot of stuff related to numbers, the algorithm, and how the systems work and whatnot. And I find a lot of the stuff she talks about to be very interesting because the numbers aspect of it, and most importantly, the technology aspect of it. The technology aspect of it is what I'm most interested in because a lot of the commentators that talk about this stuff do not talk about the technology enough. So let's fire up debate mode here and let's play this and react to it with some classic React content. Keep in mind, I don't agree with everything she says, but we'll get to that shortly.
Hey Insiders, it's Rachel here, and today I'm going to answer some of your questions about analytics and YouTube's recommendation system. So let's...
You know, the thing that people say that YouTube doesn't talk about enough. So this is all of this communication between her, Connor, the rest of the hosts on Creator Insider, and the other folks that are involved with this channel represent a major improvement in communications, as well as Team YouTube on Twitter. Got to give them shout outs as well, even though many of us vent to them about our problems with the platform. So they'll be the ones to tell you about a new YouTube support article talking about things like the ad-friendly requirements and other stuff along those lines. So that is definitely something that is commendable for YouTube. There are issues with YouTube mostly related to automated systems not working right, but at this point, if robots are our biggest problem, we're probably still doing better than most in terms of platforms with their issues.
Let's get to it. So this first question is about upload frequency. Should you spread out your uploads evenly over time? Is that the same for the system? Or should you put some space in between them, like a few weeks before publishing a new video?
This is an old, back it up. There we go. This is an old issue. And people have made all kinds of videos talking about this, saying stuff as though they knew what they're talking about when they don't. So it's good to finally hear someone from YouTube talking about this directly. We continue.
The system, or should you put some space in between them, like a few weeks before publishing a new video? And this is an interesting question because it really depends on how much your viewers are willing to watch.
That's not, no. Very important thing for content creators. Never assume that you understand what your audience is thinking. If they show signs of being malicious, then fine, but don't assume it if you don't know for certain that it's there. It may not be the case that your audience doesn't want to watch something you upload. They may not have time for it. The system might not have recommended it. They may have the cable TV problem all over again. There are numerous other explanations that until you can rule those out, you don't know that your audience isn't interested. Very important.
Some viewers really like to binge through content all at once, like a whole series. Whereas other viewers, they're not going to watch all your new uploads at the same time. So some channels have found success giving each upload some space in between their new uploads, so their new videos aren't competing with each other for people's attention.
See, the weird thing is, as she's someone from YouTube who's talking about this, why wasn't there a mention here of the 3 upload limit per 24-hour period for notifications? The real reason you don't want to upload a bunch of stuff at once is because the notifications will stop after 3 uploads because it'll get spammy and there's a risk of people turning off notifications. 3 per day. That's the max. 3 per 24-hour period, actually. So I'm surprised she didn't bring that up. But that's a good guideline to go by in terms of, I remember the BuzzFeed, I think, used to have like 16 uploads a day because they made little 1-minute videos about every single story they were covering. Yeah, that's a great way to end up unsubbing from a channel.
In between their new uploads, so their new videos aren't competing with each other for people's attention. Now, our discovery system aims to enable both of these cases depending on the viewer's preferences. Because
it's machine learning. You're trying to program computers to assume what a person wants to watch and when. This is not a good idea overall because the computers cannot take into account what's happening in the offline world when somebody's not hooked up to the internet, or, like I mentioned earlier, jinxing the results via researching something that you're only interested in once. Like if you're looking for videos on how to paint like the side of your house or something, you know, you don't want the algorithm showing you paint tutorials for like weeks afterwards when you only wanted to know that one time you were actually painting your house. Which, siding kind of makes that unnecessary, so maybe I'm getting a little too old-fashioned and rustic with these topics. K-Kona-W.
So there's no single approach that's going to work for all channels. What we recommend doing is experimenting and seeing what works best for your audience. Try uploading more frequently, and what you can do in analytics is check out a metric called average views per viewer.
Wait a minute. Average views per viewer. That's something I should look at for the washer and dryer video, who routinely have higher monetized playbacks than unique viewers. That could be because people are... But here's the thing with this number. Average views per viewer. What if somebody contributes 2 views because you make a 20-minute video and you watch 10 minutes at a time twice on 2 different Wi-Fi networks because you watch your YouTube videos on your phone while, you know, waiting for trains, buses, whatever in the city. So that's the thing. This goes back to a very basic thing about numbers that I'm always skeptical of, and people always want to get lavish with analytics in this respect. The numbers are arcane and synthetic. They are useless until you do some digging and try and figure out what is involved in them. You need to know what's involved in your numbers and metrics, not just what they are. So... and this is precisely the reason why I've only repeatedly talked about not supporting what it is that I do via things like ad blockers. Because I've had the hard numbers for a while, and I've seen the behavior in my and other people's comment sections and whatnot that corresponds to a technical audience using more ad blockers and thinking, well, I don't care, I don't want to see ads. And then, on the YouTube side of things, seeing the views per month lower on the tech videos because of that. So this average views per viewer thing does not tell me the story of why every viewer that I have is watching a video 1.5 times, as highlighted here. Could be the case that you don't know the circumstances. So you have to keep that in mind. This is something to think about when you see these commentators out there. This is something to think about when you see these commentators out there that are basically pointing the cannon back at you when there could be an alternative explanation. It is your fault that you didn't get any views on Twitch and you failed. It is your fault that your YouTube videos don't get any views. You don't know that. And there's more than enough technical problems with YouTube, as we've seen over and over again over the years, for this to be the case and for there to be another explanation. And it is no different with these numbers.
Now, if that starts getting lower when you're uploading more videos, it may indicate that you're releasing more videos than your audience is willing to watch.
May. You know what another may is? Thinking that your audience isn't willing to watch your other videos. When it could be, they don't have the time for it. They have other things going on, they forget, or the YouTube notification system doesn't even let them know the videos exist. Which is one of the reasons why for 2021, I'm changing up the end screens for my videos to include relevant playlists. So that way people that are interested don't have to fight the algorithm to see other kinds of streams in a category. Like the Celeste Fear Dragon thing in ESO has its own playlist. Everything I make that's ESO related has its own playlists. Stream replays have their own playlists. But the playlist function is a little buried when it comes to number of clicks it takes to find a playlist. And YouTube has a problem with binge watchability not having enough options that are tied to a specific creator. Which is one of the ways that Twitch, and one of their more underrated features, video over on Twitch, not streams, that's one of the advantages Twitch has. If they can get their algorithms working to where you're not rotated through the same 3 or 4 videos over and over again if you let things autoplay.
So try experimenting, check out that metric, see if it's going up or down, and then really understand what's your audience's appetite for how many videos you're releasing.
You don't know what your audience's appetite is. You don't even know your audience. Unless they tell you specifically, you don't know. That's the thing. It takes things showing up in the numbers, behavior, and trends for you to, and also demographic reports as well, if people aren't messing with, like, putting the wrong age in or something when they set up their profile. There's so many things that can go wrong when you assume things about your audience. Don't say anything about your audience until you have evidence of that.
Okay, so our next question is about monetization. Is it true that monetized videos have more likelihood of being recommended than non-monetized videos? So I can confirm that our search and recommendation systems do not know which videos are monetized and which are not.
Keep that in mind. However, talking about things in terms of the systems is not the whole story.
In Discovery, we take a long-term view. We focus on recommending videos that viewers are going to find satisfying.
Machine learning. Again, this is the question that social media has been trying to answer for a long time. How do we get computers to correctly predict what people are going to want to watch? But there's lots of things that can jinx the results, like doing research on a topic like we've mentioned.
Regardless of whether or not they're monetized. You can see this in action yourself. If you temporarily disable monetization on one of your videos, you'll notice that there's no impact on your search or recommendations traffic. Now, this being said, videos that are demonetized often contain violence, raciness, or profanity because they're not appropriate for all advertisers. And so those videos have both a greater chance of being demonetized, and they may be recommended to fewer viewers because they're not appropriate to recommend to all viewers in all contexts.
So here's the question I have regarding that. Does that mean then that it is, and this is something to think about in terms of YouTube's latest guidance. Might have to open up another browser for that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's fire up the other browser here, and let's go to that thing I posted on Twitter earlier. Get my TWs mixed up. We heard creators want one place with a one emoji, with all the info we have explaining what videos can and can't monetize on YouTube. Now, this is that place, Google support article. In it, you can see the text of our ad-friendly guidelines now cited alongside examples within the context of self-certification. Now, I actually have article mode for this. Does that work? No, it's linking to Firefox. Change browsers, remove Firefox from here. See ya. Let's link that up in article mode. Well, that means we're going to have to resize everything and everything. Well, window capture. Let's add existing Avast Secure. There we go. Add friendly content guidelines and shrink that down. Let's just make it just these things. There we go. And let's bring it down to just this. Document mode, article mode, things along those lines. And let's just put this here, and let's do this and get set up like this. There we go. So you look at the guidance that YouTube is issuing to creators here. If we go to, for example, inappropriate language, you can turn on ads for this content. You can turn on ads, but only brands who opt in will run ads. Now look at the stuff that's going to get demonetized here, or stuff that could cause problems. You should turn off ads for this content. Only brand. This is probably the difference between. Look at that obscenity. That probably gets this stream demonetized, anyways. Look at violence. You can turn down ads, and they actually have. Look at all this. They have some examples of these sorts of things now, so these categories are a lot longer. But you'll notice the guidance is going towards you should turn off ads for this content. You should turn off ads for this content, etc. Because you'll probably get demonetized, maybe even reviewed for monetization in general. Shock content, excuse me. Shock content, how about incendiary content? Because now, yeah, incendiary demeaning content, you have things like here, etc. That hasn't been updated as of yet. Sensitive events. But the thing is, we're starting to see this, you should turn off ads for this content that keeps showing up. This keeps popping up when it comes to this sort of guidance. So what this gets me wondering is whether or not we have a situation here where you have monetized, not monetized, and they're on a level playing field in terms of how the systems handle them. But anything explicitly demonetized gets treated like garbage. That's something I'm going to have to experiment with, especially on the stream side of things.
Maybe recommended to fewer viewers because they're not appropriate to recommend to all viewers in all contexts.
The question, too, is with the recent discussion of right to monetize, where YouTube has said they may even put ads on videos that are not monetized for people not in the partner program, etc. As a way of paying bills and things along those lines. Needless to say, it wasn't very popular. At the very same time, though, you have this situation where you have to ask yourself if the yellow dollar sign is the only real problem, and that you might as well just leave monetization turned off for anything you think isn't going to get it, which, in the case of my channel, is next to nothing. Most of the demonetized videos that I have are from a couple of years ago when the system first came out. So, I actually took one of them, a discussion about PlayStation 2, and submitted it for a manual review, and the manual reviewer, yeah, there's no problem with this, and it turned green again. So, I think the self-certification is probably one of the best things that YouTube has rolled out in this whole demonetization thing. They have to find a way to put it on streams so that the stream demonetization system is brought up to speed with the upload demonetization system. But if the only thing that matters is whether or not you have the yellow dollar sign, maybe just shut it off entirely. You know, don't tank the ability of people to find and enjoy your video for the sake of pennies, which would be what limited ads are, until YouTube decides to look more at limited ads and the whole thing with this constant talk that YouTube folks have about, we're going to try and bring in revenue. We're going to try and bring in revenue by working with companies who want to advertise with edgier content. But here's the problem. The other day, with the thing that happened at the US Capitol, I watched a few videos on MSNBC. They had ads. And they're talking about what could be considered domestic terrorism. If an individual does that, they get demonetized according to their own guidelines. But there are ads that are showing up if mainstream media does that. That needs to change.
Maybe recommended to fewer viewers because they're not appropriate to recommend to all viewers in all contexts. But our advertising and discovery systems are entirely separate.
Yeah, the systems might be separate. But consider this. You just got done saying that demonetized videos contain stuff that might not be appropriate to recommend. So there is a link between ad friendliness and how well your video does, even if the systems are separate, because that's what everything's being programmed to do. Now, going all the way back 15 years now to when I first got involved on YouTube in 2006, I remember reading some rules about what videos to make. One of the first things that I memorized was YouTube is not a shock site. Don't upload stuff that's intended to shock people. So, I see where YouTube has been more successful by being more family-friendly because there have been platforms that have allowed more not safe for work content and have had lower traffic as a result, because people need to know if they're browsing their phone in the break room that someone won't report them to HR because of something that pops up on the screen. So, different discussion altogether. But even if the systems are separate for discoverability and advertising, the way that they're being set up, I am not convinced isn't completely unrelated. That's been the exact numbers I've been watching for the past several years now. The stuff that is the most ad-friendly or mainstream-friendly, or, in my case with the tech videos, ad dollar-friendly, has done the best. Which is why I am MultimediaJay. Sounds technical, doesn't it? But what's getting the views? Food videos, appliance videos, and one single tech video from the past several years of making tech videos whose monetization ratio is 80% instead of 30%. So it's the best tech video because it stinks the least. She can say one thing, maybe she's correct. The systems are not linked, okay, but there is still something somewhere in there. There is still something somewhere in there that links ad friendliness to how well your videos do. And I think it's something that YouTube would want to do because they don't want to be offending people away from their platform.
Putting this into context for a particular channel, if you always make mature content and your video contains violence, raciness, or profanity, because most of the videos you release do, you're not going to see a deviation in your viewership.
Probably because of people versus technology. If you build up an audience that will watch your videos and recommend your videos to others, even if the systems don't, because it's not advertiser friendly, you're overriding the systems not supporting you via people and connections. And maybe being involved on a forum somewhere, or being involved on a subreddit somewhere, or having a Discord server, or something like that. But it doesn't get away from the system side of it. If your videos, and you just got done saying, demonetized videos have stuff in them that the system won't want to recommend in all contexts. So, this whole situation with, if you normally make mature content, stuff might still get sent to your subs, yeah. And how are you going to grow? If the systems aren't sending your stuff around because you're not as advertiser friendly. Really gets me thinking, if you see a yellow check mark, turn off monetization and see what happens. Don't even bother, because limited revenue and YouTube Premium is going to be a joke compared to how much you tank because the systems don't like your stuff.
Where channels often see fluctuations in their viewership is where they might have some content that's appropriate for certain audiences. Like, for example, let's say I'm a gaming creator and I create Roblox videos.
This is the part where I correctly predicted that she'd say Grand Theft Auto, because Grand Theft Auto is so associated with mature content in video games at this point. Let's just watch it.
And then all of a sudden I'll release something that has lots of profanity or violence. Let's say I release a video about like Grand Theft Auto and it's kind of graphic.
This was funny when I first saw it.
Appropriate to recommend to the same type of audience. So if you do see deviation in your viewership and some of your content is mature, you're going to see fluctuations when you're going after different audiences.
But don't assume, though, that your audience just hates your mature content. You could have some people who, no, I don't want my kids to see that. I got to put the headphones on, so I'm going to be careful not to watch that if my kids might hear someone dropping F-bombs in GTA. This goes back to demographics, the people side of everything. Who do you have watching? Who do you want watching? And who don't you want watching? That all matters. If you don't answer that question, circumstance answers it for you, and you might not like the results. As some of the bummed out creators talking about I doom scroll too much on Twitter have been talking about over the last couple of weeks.
If it's all the same, then that's what your viewers like and that's what they watch. Question number 3. This is from a creator who posts a video about a certain keyword, and when they do that, it performs great. And on the other hand, when they target a new keyword, the video's performance is mediocre at best.
Well, there's ways of getting around, even if the tags are minimally used these days, as the disclaimer says when you upload a video. There's other options too, like embedding your videos in blog posts on WordPress or something. Something where you don't have this finicky under the hood internal recommendation system, and you can use more traditional metadata to promote your stuff. I just don't want to have blog entries on my blog that are literally nothing but embeds of all the videos I've done in the last couple of weeks. I want the blog to have some kind of personality to it, not just be a way of getting around problems with metadata, because YouTube's trying to internalize more of it.
So their question is, when they're researching which keywords to use in their next video, what's a good way to gauge the likelihood that it's going to work out? So I really like this question. And if you make a channel that covers lots of different topics in your videos, listen up, because this one's for you.
Oh, okay. Variety channel people. Well, I am listening at attention, madam. What are you going to say?
Okay, let's focus on the audience rather than keywords.
Audience, meaning everybody who watches your videos for any reason. Not necessarily your fan base, but just everyone tuning in.
Because that's not something your recommendation system is particularly focused on. Instead, it's primarily focused on viewers, what they're interested in, and how they interact with videos when they're offered to them.
That would be the impressions click-through rate. Now, the impressions click-through rate is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. My latest stream was one of the best streams I've done in a while. My ESO gaming stream. 7 views out of 200 impressions. My question is, what constitutes an impression on YouTube? If in the recommended tab you have, let's say, 12 videos in recommended, the first 6 can be seen without scrolling. Your video number 12, does that count as an impression that someone didn't click on because they didn't roll down and click on your video? Because it was part of the page when it loaded, they just didn't scroll. Again, you got to ask yourself, whenever you see numbers, what's involved in them? What constitutes an impression on YouTube? YouTube's definition is they showed you the video and someone clicked on it or didn't click on it. However, I don't know the context of that. Could you be somewhat buried and people don't click on you because you're buried and they click something else higher up the list? Old issue for smaller creators.
It's primarily focused on viewers, what they're interested in, and how they interact with videos when they're offered to them. Now, it's natural for some topics to be more broadly appealing than others.
Yes. And this is exactly one of the things to keep in mind. Even with video games, there's got to be, more people playing games or being interested in games than others. But this is all demographics. This is stuff you'll learn about if you formally learn business. You can be the #1 player in a very small market and be smaller than somebody who barely has any market share in a much bigger market. So yeah, it's just the sort of thing where don't automatically get upset about the way things are until you have evidence that something is going on. This is something that carries over into what's currently going on these platforms where people aren't growing because more people are getting into some kind of content creation because of the lockdowns and the pandemic. And so they may have equipment for basic video stuff now. They may give YouTube videos a whirl or give streaming a whirl. So it's probably a worse environment for any kind of growth right now than it has been in years. Just because more people are making stuff, less people are watching stuff. Talent inversion, ladies and gentlemen.
But if you have a channel where you're creating lots of different types of videos about various topics, you probably have lots of different types of viewers on your channel.
Yes. This is something I've screwed up a lot because the issue I have with the tech videos is that tech to me does not mean tinkering with computers all the time. It can mean mobile devices. It can mean smart lighting. It can mean electronics. It can mean speakers. I'd like to think that these are all kind of nerdy hobbies that are close enough that there would be more crossover between the audiences than what there has been. But a very important thing we need to talk about later in the show, once we're done reacting to this video, is this idea that just because your channel isn't growing on some platform like Twitch or YouTube does not mean that your channel isn't growing. Your channel is growing. It's just not growing fast enough to outgrow the attrition that everybody has. Why? Because life happens. Time marches on and life happens. But that's a discussion we'll save until after we're done reacting to this video.
With different interests. Okay, let's put this into an example. Let's say I'm a teacher and I have a channel with lots of educational videos. Maybe I've been uploading a popular series about European history. Now I've built an audience that's interested in this topic, European history. But now I want to switch it up and I want to upload a new series about another subject I'm passionate about, like chemistry videos.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, because very different. STEM versus, history, things along those lines. Totally agree with her. She's practically calling me out for this. But that's assuming too much. Again, demographics. What are people interested in? What's the crossover?
Now, my European history viewers might not be interested in watching those videos about chemistry. So the best way to figure out the likelihood of that new format working out is to think about what type of audience you've built, what they're interested in, and if those viewers would want to watch that new video that you're uploading.
There's one very important detail that she didn't mention. When you start with the first thing you build up on YouTube, you're starting as a rookie. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows why they should watch you. Nobody knows anything. That changes when you start making something long enough for people to like, okay, they do this and they're pretty decent at it, let's watch. When you move on to something else or bring something else into the mix, you are starting over. So in a sense, even though I've been involved on YouTube since 06, doing variety stuff since 06, multiple different types of things since 06, the newer stuff that people don't know yet that I'm consistent with is like starting over. So in this respect, I'm getting the new creator experience on YouTube, having already gotten somewhere with something else. It's a real punch in the face, though, to go back to square one.
Built, what they're interested in, and if those viewers would want to watch that new video that you're uploading.
So let's talk about conditioning again. Going back to the main topic of the discussion. Non-supportive content creators earned or learned, talking about whether the things you do that might upset somebody that you watch is learned, or is it conditioned behavior? Is it something you might have been influenced to do? We'll get back to the video shortly here. So consider this. You don't support somebody. Well, let's take the offline equivalent of this. You have a friend who's they're their own person, they do their own thing, they have interests. Those interests are not the same interest as yours. You may end up in a situation because you're friends with this person, and you want to be friends with this person, where you may end up going to an event or getting involved in something that you're not as interested in as your friend. You're just getting involved in that to invest in the relationship, to give them a chance, so to speak, when it comes to what it is that they're into. This also would apply to things like significant others, girlfriends, spouses, the whole nine yards. There's got to be times in your life where somebody is going to be involved. You want to be friends with them. You want to, build up a relationship with them, platonic, romantic, whatever. And it's going to involve maybe doing some stuff that you're not as interested in for their sake. It's part of being empathetic and decent to others. Why can't this apply to content creators? I bring up, for example, the Intercom Company infamous example during the heydays of Classic Game Room, when Mark was uploading salsa dance tutorials alongside the video game reviews. I subbed for the video game reviews. But because he seemed to be a cool guy, and I liked what he did, and I wanted to support what he did, I would actually watch some of those salsa videos that he eventually moved off to another channel. Not as interested in salsa dancing. I don't think I ever have salsa danced. But I'm like, you know what? Let's just check some of this out. Because they're, a cool person, want to support what they do, don't want them to feel like they're wasting their time and things along those lines. So there's an offline equivalent of this, where you may end up getting involved in stuff you're not as interested in as your friend, your wife, your spouse, your whatever, for their sake. It's part of empathy, part of being decent to others. And this breaks down this argument I hear from folks like Devin Nash talking about, if you bring up this idea, oh, you're just asking people to be forced to watch bad content. Well, bad is a subjective term. And things are more nuanced when it comes to your relationships with the folks that you support than others. I can tell you I've watched some YouTube videos about topics that I wasn't interested in initially, but eventually I saw where creator I liked, friend, etc. was coming from, and now I'm more interested in the topic. This is the sort of thing that we are pushing off the table with some of this narcissistic behavior and this entitled behavior that exists in the world of online media these days, where we are so used to YouTube being a mature product that we're disrespecting creators. And little do people realize, again, conditioned behavior, that if you pressure inadvertently creators into creating separate channels for everything they do, which is something YouTube officially does not support very well via their systems and even some things other Creator Insider videos have talked about, what you're doing, plus YouTube has a very robust playlist system. It's very easy to catalog everything you work on if you work on multiple things. But if you pressure in any way somebody to make separate channels, you're encouraging what are called brand channels. Channels that are not tied to a person, maybe channels that host a series or something. And if you complain about the lack of the you part of YouTube, that YouTube's too fake, it's too commercial, it's too much of a sellout platform, whatever. If you complain about any of that stuff, why would you behave like this? That's part of the reason why I'm sounding off on this whole thing about how we treat each other. Even if you don't make videos, even if you're a creator who has different interests than some people that you may like and support, sometimes it's not about you. Surprise. All right, let's get back to this video. It's one of the reasons why I'm talking about this stuff so much. I think there's a problem that exists on YouTube among people. Not a platform problem, people problem. Although the platform has encouraged it a bit with the corporate influence that has crept into YouTube over its existence. But people don't realize when they become sock puppets to it. And there's little details in how they treat creators on this platform that's part of this. And I'm curious how many of these people out there that are engaging in this stuff know that this is a problem in the first place. They probably don't. Who knows? People can really be sheepish sometimes. We continue.
What they're interested in, and if those viewers would want to watch that new video that you're uploading. For competitive research, I recommend 3 things. So first, using the audience interest card in YouTube Analytics that will...
You need enough activity, though, before that'll show anything. Mine is still empty because not enough data.
Will show you what other videos your audience is watching, and you can look at the titles and thumbnails and learn from that. Also,
please don't emphasize thumbnails anymore. Do not. That era is over. I knew I should have used React mode for this, but here is... that's wrong. The wrong size anyways. Okay, whatever, man. So, YouTube contributor... We could probably just shrink it down like this. No, that's how these things get broken. Stop breaking stuff. How about on the other side? Nope. OBS, you monster. Yeah, so... yeah. Thumbnails. In the recommended tab, if we scroll down, we can see a couple of them. I'm seeing a lot of videos about British history, and does uploading more to YouTube grow your channel? Da-da-da. Yeah, is it showing up yet, or do I gotta scroll further? No, I'm not far enough over. Yeah. Anyways, if you mouse over a recommended video, you now get a mouse over preview. It's not just on the front page anymore. The thumbnail era on YouTube is over. People can see through your wild and crazy thumbnails by just mousing over the video. So as people wake up to how much they've been manipulated and don't want to be manipulated anymore, we shall see more of this. Where you don't want to come across as someone who's trying to twist people's arms into clicking on your video. Even if it gets you more views, you win the battle, but lose the war.
Other videos your audience is watching, and you can...
Oh. Let's also not forget, Twitch has a far inferior thumbnail experience. You can put thumbnails on uploads, that feature people don't use enough. But on your streams, your thumbnail is based on recent stuff that happened in the streams, unlike YouTube. So literally, you have no thumbnail meta when browsing the live stuff on Twitch versus YouTube, where folks like Dr. Disrespect use like fan art as their thumbnails and stuff. So you have a successful streaming platform with no thumbnail meta. Can we bury this issue once and for all? We continue.
Look at the titles and thumbnails and learn from that. Also, comparing keywords using Google Trends, like popping one keyword and comparing it to another, and looking at which one is more popular.
That might be more of something to do with search engine robots, but I'm not so sure I want to try and manipulate people that way. I don't want people to think that I'm out to mess with their head. There's a lot of things in life that try to mess with your head. Advertisements, people with ego problems, maybe your friends are too arrogant, whatever. When people are sitting down, relaxing to watch something on YouTube, or maybe on their phone or whatever, they just want to relax. They don't want yet more advertising in the form of some creator trying to mess with them via a thumbnail that's way too wild and crazy for what's in the video. It might even run afoul of YouTube's own policy about spam, scams, and deceptive content. One of the most invoked policies I see when people complain about their channels getting banned.
Lastly, searching for similar videos on YouTube and looking at their title and thumbnail.
Again, thumbnail. That's going to be irrelevant sooner rather than later as more of this mouse over preview stuff becomes the norm. How does it work on a phone, though? There's no mouse pointer.
So if I'm uploading videos about chemistry, for example, like literally searching for other videos about chemistry, look at the ones that performed really well. What can you learn from their titles and thumbnails?
See, the thing with thumbnails is, the only reason I do thumbnails on streams is because it's mandatory on YouTube. There's no generating a thumbnail from recent moments in the stream like there is on Twitch. So what I found with ESO is I'm taking all these beautiful screenshots and souping them up in Picasa, use them as thumbnails. Save a couple of them. Maybe it's something that's on Twitter one day will be the thumbnail for an ESO stream later on. I've certainly gotten good at that. Did I just change the mode on this microphone? Cardioid, please. Thank you. I don't want to be one of those newbies that's getting keyboard noise in their streams.
That work well and really resonate with viewers. So I hope that helps. So the next question, nobody actually asked me, but I really wanted to address because I think it's really important. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Do more of that anytime you want.
that's, can I take a break? Like if I stop uploading for a few weeks, is that going to kill my channel?
Oh, huge, huge, huge. Again, this is one of those things that YouTube commentators have talked about for years, about this treadmill that YouTube puts you on. But it's not something that anybody has really confirmed or denied who actually works with YouTube stuff. So again, Rachel's my favorite CI host because she talks about analytics, the technology, and she fills this void that exists in this commentary space by actually talking about the technology behind all of this that is affecting and in many cases coming between you and your ability to get to grow and retain an audience on these platforms. It's the thing that got me interested in talking about the meta myself, because I actually want to talk about the technology and the fact that just because you have no viewers doesn't mean your content sucks. Unlike what some people out there will tell you. There really is technology as the middleman between people and their audiences. Facebook does this even more than YouTube does. I think Rachel could have her own channel doing meta videos if she really wanted to. But for now, her appearances on Creator Insider are pretty cool.
And the answer is a resounding, please feel free to take a break. We analyzed 40,000 upload breaks that lasted between 8 and 60 days.
This is statistical stuff. Reasons to take it seriously.
More than half of the breaks we analyzed were over 2 weeks long, and we found that there was no correlation or consistent drops in viewership after taking a break. And
the question is, though, is that because people checked in on the channel and there wasn't a risk of the recommendations or the notifications stopping because you took a break? Again, we got to remember technology could be the wild card here.
There was a really wide range in before and after viewership performance. Many channels received even higher viewership after taking a break. In fact, 25% of the channels who took a break grew their viewership more than 50% after.
I wonder if Asmongold saw this video before he decided to take a break from streaming. But it is true. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I've seen more people sub to the channel when I've taken long breaks than when I've made content on a regular basis. It's weird, but it's been going on for years.
After they returned. So we found there was no penalty for taking a break. In fact, the longer the break, the more positive the change in views.
Well, the thing, too, with that is it gives your audience a chance to catch up on stuff. If they don't have a lot of time and they know you've made like 40 videos in the last 3 months, they only saw like 10 of them, they have some time to watch the other 30. So it does, the thing with that, the reason why I think this works is because people go around and they play catch up on your stuff, and that counts as activity even though you're not making any videos. So the systems still have reasons to recommend your stuff, even if you're not making anything currently. I've actually seen examples where I've taken breaks from making videos, and things actually dropped when I came back after rising while I was gone for whatever reason. There's probably even more of that nowadays with more algorithms in the mix. But I think the big thing, too, here that we have to remember, this is something that in the world of Twitch has fallen by the wayside because it's been overshadowed by bigger issues like DMCA, that safety committee that people didn't like all those months ago. What have they done since then? Who knows? The discipline system. But work-life balance has been something that Twitch has been talking about. It just hasn't been getting enough attention as some of the bigger issues on the platform. So I figured it was only a matter of time before YouTube would have somebody on Creator Insider talk about something related to work-life balance. And I'm very glad that she's done this. More people need to hear this. It's not good for you as a person, and it's not good for what you make that you want people to enjoy if you burn yourself out because you think there's this synthetic treadmill that you have to run on in order to get anywhere on this platform. And also, don't blame the technology if there's a problem with people. If you have an audience that will just throw their hands in the air and storm away because you're not uploading every single day or every single week, do you really want those people in your audience? If they're going to be that demanding of you, especially if you're doing this part-time just for fun. We continue.
Now that could be related to creators who are taking long breaks to work on special projects. Maybe they feel inspired again and they return with even better content. And many creators take breaks in January, especially because a lot of advertiser campaigns run out after the holidays. So they take January to get fresh ideas for the new year.
Yeah, nobody has any money. They spent it all on Christmas. Been seeing that in the advertising revenue every single year, including 2020. That I've been doing this stuff.
Just really want creators to know that you should not feel pressured to upload daily or weekly. We've done so many analyses over the years and found that views growth across uploads is not correlated with the time between those uploads.
Indeed. And this is a very important thing about YouTube and what they're good at, evergreen content. When you start committing to a regular upload schedule or something like that, that may bring down the quality of what it is that you're doing. You're leaving potential on the table with YouTube's greatest strength, which is evergreen stuff. The ability for something you make to be appreciated long after it's uploaded on the platform. This is one of the reasons why I have an emphasis on hybrid streaming like this. Number one, not much going on in chat, if anything, most days. Just get a couple of lurkers showing up. But at the same time, I would probably want to be like a radio show anyways and save chat for its own part of the show. So that way things could stay more focused and we could stay on task a little more. Why? Because this is YouTube. The stream is easily converted into a spin-off video, or you let it finish processing and it becomes a YouTube video, just a lot slower. And you can make videos based on stream content for highlights and things like that. Very easy with the wonderful cloud editor that YouTube has. There should be ways to make everything your audience wants to see, big or small. So in this case, with the reaction to this, I could make its own spin-off video of just that reaction. In addition to people that might want to watch the whole stream over and over again. So people have their choice as to what they want to watch. So, absolutely. Evergreen content has been the most successful platform in the last 20 years, not streaming. Streaming is limited, and I still say with the streaming bubble on Twitch in the late 2010s, largely driven by disgruntled creators because of the adpocalypse and the problems with automated systems, I think streaming is well overdue for the bubble to burst, as more people realize streaming should be a live extension of what you're already doing. It shouldn't be just what you're doing. Because I think people, again, conditioned behavior. I think people have been conditioned by Twitch and the rise of Twitch to think a certain way about videos versus streams. And when you stop and think critically about the situation, you realize maybe I've been a puppet to Twitch's business decisions to focus almost exclusively on streaming. I can tell you, if you get involved on YouTube just to stream, you are leaving potential on the table. This platform is just too good at after-the-fact evergreen stuff for you to do that. So it's not that I want to be a streamer. No. You're too influenced by what Twitch has gotten people to follow along with. And you're not thinking about things from the perspective of there's a whole wide world outside of Purple Land. And YouTube is a big part of that.
Many creators have established really reliable connections with their audience through quality over quantity.
Yes, 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 and again, yes. This is a lesson that these VOD barfers who are sending all their VODs over from Twitch because of DMCA issues on Twitch are going to learn the hard way. You can go after the fact and change literally every single video you have with the cloud editor to take out the dull bits. You can edit out that 30 minutes of a 7-hour stream where you walked away from your chair for whatever reason. Underrated feature on YouTube. And by the way, Twitch has this too. It's just not as precise. The highlight editor has a split tool. It is just 5 seconds minimum per segment, and the editor goes down to the second instead of the frame. Really, barfing VODs and saying, please watch the VODs, is a sign of laziness. You have the tools to make them better uses of your audience's time. Use them. I have 2 VODs that I sent over from Twitch that are still unreleased on YouTube. ESO, the project to build branch offices for my service vendors in-game. 2 streams. Why? I want to cut out, with the cloud editor, all the dumb, dull parts, or the off-topic parts for those, and see how they do. Could also do that after the fact for the stuff I have as well, but I haven't really been using BRB screens. Could do it for this stream, as part of the spin-off video. People know that I listen to Slink music and things like that. So, yeah. Don't barf VODs, ladies and gentlemen. It's too lazy. Plus, you can respect your audience more by putting more effort into what it is you do. And this quality over quantity thing, almost mix those 2 words up, is huge. Again, I think Rachel could have her own channel. I think she'd do very well as a commentator talking about this YouTube algorithm stuff on a more regular basis, because it addresses something that all these people blabbering on about stuff they can't know about aren't talking about, and aren't talking about enough. Huge.
So I hope that helps. So the next question is a comment, not necessarily a question, from a creator who says that their older videos start getting more popular when they release a new upload. Now this is actually a really common phenomenon because every upload is an opportunity to reach a new audience. And when new viewers discover your channel, they might go back and watch some of your older videos in the same session.
Binge watch, binge watch. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Netflix era. True, 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 and again, true. YouTube is very good at evergreen content. Part of that is binge watchability. Matters for channels. It's why I'm looking over end screens in my videos this year to incorporate playlists as well as related videos, or videos that I don't think are getting enough views. So if someone wants to see more of something similar to what I'm doing, ESO stream, commentary stream, video, tech video, other video, food video, whatever, there are options at the end of the video for them to click over without having to even worry about the recommended panel. And YouTube has addressed my concerns about post-roll ads by moving mid-rolls a bit further away from the end screen so they won't step on the toes as much. So even from an ad perspective, I think YouTube has improved in that respect.
As an analogy, when artists are nominated for a Grammy or an award, sometimes you start seeing their older songs start to chart. Anything happening with them is going to spark interest, in their catalog. And on YouTube, that's very similar. So if somebody's interested in a new video, it might spark interest in you and your content, and you might notice that your older videos start to increase in popularity. Some creators often notice that older videos will start popping up in their real-time card. And that's one of the reasons that happens. Okay, that's all the questions we have time for today. If you have questions about analytics or how YouTube's search or recommendation systems work, please drop them below. So as always, keep it real.
Hello, insiders. Yeah, that's one of the key reasons why I like this Creator Insider channel so much. It's just straight to the point about things. It's to the point about things, and, you know, it actually answers questions and represents transparency that otherwise would not exist. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about that thing I was talking about earlier. If I can remember what it was. Might have to actually use DVR mode on the stream to find it. Oh. Just one last note about, otherwise we'll save it for another video here. Earned or learned, talking about conditioned behavior and things along those lines with regards to the way people are towards creators. BRB time. There, I actually let the song play. All right, getting a little hoarse here. What are we up to for time? Oh, an hour and a half. Yeah, so, and I do a lot more talking than a lot of people do in their streams. So, anyways, let's talk about one last thing with regards to growth on these platforms. This is something that the Twitch growth gurus or whatever, YouTube growth gurus are not going to talk about. This is something we saved for later. And let's talk about just the blunt truth about the state of all of this right now, as more and more people have gotten equipment of some sort to make videos with, maybe even by virtue of having to get involved with remote learning, Zoom meetings, and things along those lines. Bottom line is this stuff is less special than it used to be. People have competent cameras in their smartphones if they have a good enough smartphone these days. And I'm at a situation where, because of this Canon that's been glitching on the sound side of things, if redoing my computer from scratch does not fix this, this is my B-roll camera. So I'm using consumer camcorders, and I have this 60 FPS camcorder that I'm using for B-roll. Something you have to remember, though, it's too easy to think that your channel isn't growing because your numbers aren't getting bigger. But the truth is your channel is growing if your numbers aren't getting bigger because of something called attrition, something everybody has. So if I look around and I see, for example, Asmongold hanging around at the 40K mark on Twitch before deciding to take his latest break, it's easy to think that you're not getting anywhere because your numbers are stagnant. Or if I look at Ashley Christ, 3,000 to 5,000 views with 33,000 subscribers. Her channel has a couple of years on it, though, so her channel has been around more than long enough for there to be attrition in the subscribers, simply due to how old the channel is. One of the things we've been mentioning throughout this show is we've been talking about this whole idea of just don't make dumb assumptions about your audience. You have to have evidence and see evidence in your analytics, numbers, comment sections, or whatever, in order to really know that something malicious is going on. I, for example, have sounded off on ad blockers and people being disrespectful because I've seen things in the analytics and in people's behavior on my and other similar creators' comment sections, even when I'm not making computer videos, that has hinted to me that this problem is a thing that needs to be addressed. And hopefully some of the discussions I've had have gotten the gears turning for some people out there who may now be waking up to the fact that they've been suckered into this kind of stuff. Because we're talking about conditioned behavior with is non-supportive content creators earned or learned. If it's learned behavior, you got it from somewhere and you may not even know that you have it. But everybody has attrition because life happens and things happen. Even something as simple, mundane, and non-malicious as someone losing a password to a Google account will affect the difference between subs and views and all kinds of other stuff related to your channel. That's part of the attrition, especially when platforms like YouTube are highly conservative about closing inactive accounts to not accidentally close the account of someone who's slightly active, not completely inactive. Maybe it's somebody who's subbed to you that only watches YouTube once a year for whatever reason. You'll get views from them once a year, but are you going to care when it's that infrequent, even though they're giving you views and watch time? That's the thing. So, I mean, it's been the case that I've seen a lot of creators where I can guess what their concurrents are going to be, because unless something happens or some special event, like on Twitch, S-Fan Ginny getting back together, that has a magic all of its own, so to speak, with how those two interact on camera and on stream. Or in the case of Hachu, with the opening of her convenience store, Hachu Mart, over there in Korea. Cute little project that I know that she's been wanting to do for a while, and things like that. But if people are tending to do the same stuff and things haven't radically changed for them in a way that could attract more viewers, I've been able to guess where their concurrence will be, and I've been right over and over again. Streamer with Instagram pictures, pretty Instagram picture. I'm like, probably about 1,500 concurrents, right? Yep. That person has 5,000. Yep. That person has 10,000. Yep. That person has 500. Yup. That person's a Twitch affiliate, but nobody watches. Yup. And you know why? Lots of people aren't growing. But technically they are. Because if you gain 2 viewers and lose 2 viewers to attrition, your numbers aren't going to go anywhere, but you still gained viewers. And so remembering the relationship between creators and people watching, as well as the fact that some of the best people who will watch you are people who aren't making stuff themselves because they have more time, because they're not sucking up their time to make things. You got to think about that. If you have a couple of people like what you do and show up, and you're crying about, my views are the same, they're not going anywhere, what do you think that message that sends to the people that have supported you? It's just other people have left or gone inactive at the same time they were supporting you. Does that completely discount the people that have given you a chance that people have left? Do not put other people's problems who don't support you or stopped supporting you onto the people that are. And so when I see a supportive comment on a video, a stream, in chat, or in the community page, the community tab on my channel, or on Twitter, very often I'll send hearts and whatnot. It's great to see something besides no feedback or negative feedback all the time. People that have positive feedback deserve to be recognized, quite frankly. Because there's just so much of people wrapped up in their daily lives, doing things they may lose track of how they're coming across to others because of their nonverbal communication, their behavior. But their behavior may be due to the environment that they're in. Work got hard. They don't have enough time to watch like they used to. Things are going on. And some people have come out and they said, yeah, man, I've had problems with my job. I've had problems with my Wi-Fi. And, well, you know, I'm a human being just like you guys are. I can understand when things happen. There's a lot more things I'd like to be doing, and I've liked to have been doing these last couple of months, but things got wild at the job I have. So, it happens to all of us, happens to the best of us, happens to the worst of us. But I can't emphasize enough, attrition is a thing with everybody, because life goes on. People lose passwords to accounts, they may end up in the hospital with some terrible disease, they may end up having things come up, etc. So these channels that haven't been growing, including Asmongold, 40 grand since he came back from his last break, they really have been growing, just not enough to offset the attrition. And in my case, when I talk about my channel having not grown in the last 2 years, because I'm still at 3,800 something subs, I myself have deliberately increased my own attrition because I don't want disrespectful people that only care about tinkering with computers all the time in my audience. Because what kind of feedback am I going to get from them? They're probably going to be one of those people that ignores 95% of a video to pick me apart for something that happens in a slim 5% of the video that I see people complaining about on Twitter. You know, content tech video creators out there are actually talking about this. 95% of the video is correct. The 5% that other people don't like is what people hound them for. It's disgusting and it's disrespectful. And it's indicative of a problem where people don't realize that just because they see other people behaving a certain way on the internet doesn't mean it's right. And that's why I talk about conditioned behavior. Have you been conditioned to behave a certain way towards people on Twitch, people on YouTube, people on Reddit, anywhere? And you don't know it. You're playing along with what someone else influenced you to do. These are the tough questions we all have to ask ourselves. And I am no exception to this. Many years ago, I was involved in a forum that argued politics all day. People from the right, people from the left, people from third parties, everybody with the strongest opinions in the world arguing all over the place. And there was this culture of antagonism that built up from all the political stuff. Long before Trump, long before Obama, George W. Bush era. When I stopped posting on that forum on a regular basis, I did so after having to step away and realize how much I had been affected just by the culture of arguing all the time that existed on that forum. It wasn't something that I would have done normally, but I'd been around that environment long enough to be influenced by it. This is something that we, as people watching content creators who are involved on Twitch, involved on YouTube, involved on Twitter, involved on Instagram, involved anywhere, need to keep in the back of our heads. Need to keep this in mind. It's possible to get caught up in something to the point where you become fishbowled by it. And when you take a step away from it and you see the world beyond the internet, or the world beyond XYZ platform, you realize it's unique to the platform and you don't need to be influenced by it, and you need to think more critically about the way you are towards others. That's the reason why we had this discussion today. Conditioned behavior is insidious. It sneaks under the radar. You may not even know that you have it until someone else points it out. I hope this can get the gears turning. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.